things started, and we're going to be opening up with some words from our mayor, Brandon Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. And if I could have Councilman Stokes and the comptroller join me at the podium. It is so great to be here, and good morning, everyone. And first and foremost, let me say congratulations to Heart Place Services for not only having a vision, but doing the work and seeing it through to completion. So let's give them a round of applause. To Pamela and Chris, both, you have both been so good to Baltimore by providing meals to homeless children and helping to meet their needs through so many of your other charitable works. And what will become Hope Village used to be 27 vacant city-owned lots that we assembled by removing and abandoning and blighting properties throughout this area. Commissioner Kennedy, when I was a lowly neighborhood liaison, I spent a lot of time walking around here with community leaders looking at these lots, and to now see that we have went through the process of getting them demolished and now will be assembled and now turning into something that will benefit this neighborhood is something that is long overdue, but we know it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication. So thankful to our residents for being patient with us. Thank you for our partners who help us get here. Of course, I am so ecstatic to be joined by our Housing Commissioner, Alice Kennedy. I think our planning director is somewhere around here. Chris Ryder is in the back. We know that advancing your work today of constructing homes for sale to homeless working families touches all of our hearts and serves our city in many needed ways. And I'm proud to be here as a partner in this work by helping you acquire the much needed land. This groundbreaking is a milestone. I want to give a special shout out to my friend Mark Saperstein for investing in this idea and helping to bring it to fruition. A little earlier this year, on a much hotter day, I joined House America and set the goals for the city to address homelessness and the homelessness crisis. Our goal is to rehouse at least 1,000 households experiencing homelessness and add over 1,600 new affordable housing units into the development pipeline during this calendar year. And I'm glad to say that we are well on our way to exceeding that goal. And when I think about the future homeowners that will enjoy this new space, their own homes that will be conveyed to them fully furnished, it truly warms my heart personally. We all want the same things for ourselves and our families, an opportunity in a way to earn a living wage and in a safe learning and living environment. And it all starts with having a safe, affordable housing. We are continuously working to rebuild and strengthen Baltimore towards a healthier and safer future. And I'm thankful that we don't have to do it alone, and that all of us assembled here and across our city know the only way to do that is to do it together. I'm very excited about this new community being created for our city's most vulnerable residents, and this new opportunity being made for those who are in need. Hope Village is a part of our city's renaissance and our bright future. Thank you again for doing the hard work to make it happen. And I'll now turn it over to Councilman Robert Stokes for some quick remarks. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What a great day here is in Baltimore. The sun is shining. There's plenty of light. Hope Village, I know for a fact the city government has put a lot into this work. I remember when they first started, where's the gentleman up in Charles Village?
Yeah. Oh, there's
Yes, when they first started having a conversation about building that here, I want to thank all the partners for the Hope Village ground ceremony. It's going to be a great day in Baltimore. And the reason why I say that, a lot of newscasts always say it's nothing happening in Baltimore. They always go with the negative stuff. Well, there's some great things happening in Baltimore City today. There's some great things happening in the 12th District. And we need to highlight that because there is development going on in this city. But if you listen to what the media said, but I wanted to just mention that I also want to thank the Oliver Community Association because they had a whole lot to do with this process moving forward. The developers The architects had to get Oliver's blessing for this to even happen. So we have to acknowledge the community association, because if they weren't at the table from the beginning, this groundbreaking would not be happening. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, as we dig deeper into the mission and the vision of what we're doing, as much as you know, there's a dynamic duo that spearheads this whole thing. And I'm going to bring up the first person, and she's going to, Ms. Pam Wilson, for some remarks and the mission.
I'll hold it. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. As I introduce our board members, I'd like you to know that each of them have long histories of working with the poor and the homeless in Baltimore. But to list all of their accomplishments would take quite a bit of time. So I would like to ask the board members to please stand as I just introduce you. John Shire, who's our MC, and we have, where is she? I'm sorry, I've been so busy. Rachel Wilkinson and Karen Haywood West and John DeVecca, and of course Christian and myself, and Sharon Wiley. Now, back to the beginning, the time before we began our quest to solve a well-recognized barrier for very low-income people to build wealth and security that could lift working families from the misery and unhappiness of homelessness into home ownership and a better future for themselves and their children. For the 51 years of our marriage, Christian and I have worked on many projects, building our own company, developing industry organizations, and more. And then 23 years ago, after our daughter graduated and was married, we moved to Baltimore City because we love city life, and Baltimore seemed ideal for us. Here we found beauty, entertainment, education, and everything a good city could offer. But its greatest asset we found was its people. Truly good, generous people, filled with life and love and dedication to not only their city, but to their neighbors in every corner of Baltimore as well. But here we also found in some of these corners poverty, deep, sad needs that those same good people address day after day, but needs that always were there and in need of more and more help. So after we retired 12 years ago, we joined a Peace Through Justice Committee of St. John's of Baltimore City United Methodist Church, and while the entire world needs peace and justice, I suggested first we look to address justice within our own city of Baltimore. Chris suggested we meet with a local school to find out what their students needed. That day, the principal stunned us by saying that her job to educate homeless children in her school was greatly impaired because her homeless students came to school on Mondays having had little or no food on the weekends since school meals were unavailable on weekends. Many poor people lived in food deserts and could not travel to feeding centers, and even parents who had jobs could often not stretch their low pay to cover all of the nutritional needs of their growing children. How then does a school principal get the attention of a child starting the school week hungry, tired, and unhappy, and knowing that he or she would face the same hunger again in just a few days? Our group immediately knew that we had to address the problem starting right there. And 2 years later, which we did, and 2 years later, a local part-time seasonal shelter, which some of you would recall, Heart's Place Shelter, reorganized as a nonprofit called Heart's Place Services, Inc., which is what we are now, and asked to join our feeding program. Then we were able to expand our program, providing backpacks of food each weekend for homeless families, not to every homeless families, as my husband Christian actually wanted to do, but to many. We began to join organizations such as COHO, the Coalition of Homeless Children and Families, and meeting with more principals, social workers, and teachers, and that's where our education about homelessness developed in earnest. We learned how mothers and fathers working 1, 2, or 3 low-paying jobs could still not afford the rising cost of rent and certainly not the cost of mortgages for a home. So these families, working families, experience homelessness, which by definition is a state of being unhoused or unsheltered, lacking stable, safe, and adequate housing. Included here are many who are housing insecure, in fear of losing homes from rising rents and food prices, as well as families who are housed but in unsafe and inadequate situations. I'll never forget what one principal told us about a young boy at her school who asked the principal to help him from getting into trouble because other boys were taunting him. He said, "I can't take any more trauma." He had had little sleep the night before because his mother worked at night and he was responsible for looking after his sleeping younger sister, keeping away rodents and washing their school uniforms in the bathroom sink, drying them between books so they wouldn't be too wrinkled the next day. Technically, even with housing, this family was experiencing homelessness. This is why Christian turned to me one day and said, "We've got to get these people into homes." So I'll close now for I'm sorry, there's one more thing. Okay, I'll close now with a quote from Dr. William A. Ward, as listed on the website of Dayspring, a nonprofit founded to change the lives of homeless children and families. Excuse me. A house is made from walls and beams. A home is made with love and dreams. And now, just before I turn the podium over to Christian to tell the rest of the story of our journey to build the love and dreams, I'd like to introduce a candidate for our homes, and that is Latoya Mercer, her mother Catherine, and we expect her daughter to be here soon also. So, Christian?
I see that Mr. from Schiller is there.
Yes.
Oh, I'm fine, sir.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, so I want to give one of my much coveted comptroller medallions to the Wilson couple.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, rather than me speaking at this moment, let me give you the opportunity of Mr. Peter Francho.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Mayor Scott. Thank you for your partnership. And Comptroller Henry, yes, thank you for doing this. This is a project that obviously is special to the city of Baltimore, but it's also special to the state of Maryland. And we need all 157 municipalities to have a Hope Village, because the need is so great. And I don't think our population in Maryland understands that many of the homeless have income. They're working. However, their rents have gone up. I think single studio apartments in Baltimore City, the rent has risen 30% in 1 year. Normally it's 2 or 3%. Gas, gas prices up 50%. Grocery prices up 30%. Inflation is almost a double digit. It's going to mean more people who have income are forced out of their shelters, and they have to go and find hotel rooms for their kids. They have to find shelters for themselves. Many of them end up living in their cars. That's what's happening right now all across the country. And it's because we have this inflation. The Federal Reserve is putting these big interest rate increases, understandably, to control inflation. We have to get that down, but the result is that it softens the national economy. It produces more people who are vulnerable and in need. That's why this program is so critical to, hey, I know it took a long time. I know it was very difficult. I know you started with containers, and I still think that's a viable
Yes, I do too.
suggestion. Is anyone here from Harbor Bank? It's my favorite bank in the state. One of you very minority-owned banks. Come on up here. Yes, sir. Yeah, this takes courage to do this in the face of all the fiduciary responsibilities that everybody has. But if I could give you one of my medallions and give it personally to Joe Haskins, if you would, because it's just one of the very few minority-owned banks in the state, and they're involved in a very creative way. Assume the comptroller. Yeah, thank you. Please give that to Joe. Yeah. And so the need is there. The proof is in the pudding. Here we are. we're going to start out and do something which is physical and brings hope to people. And frankly, you know, they're going to have some hope that they actually, you know, they're not going to have to live in a shelter. They're not going to have to face rents, so that at the end of their careers, after their decades of working, they have nothing to give to their kids. There's no generational wealth. There's no equity. There's no ownership. So this is a breakthrough idea on how both to take care of folks who need shelter desperately, but also need ownership. And I'm just saying very emphatically that the state of Maryland needs to partner with the city of Baltimore, not just on this project, but on projects all across the state. And the beneficiary will be the state of Maryland, because we will have hundreds of thousands of workforce development homes that people can actually have control over, confidence in, freedom from physical pain. Think of the pain of sleeping in your car overnight. Freedom from financial pain. Think of the idea that you work and work and work, you have nothing at the end of the day after you pay your bills. Freedom from mental health. Think of the strain and anxiety in your head as you have to take your kids and put them in with a relative while you live in your car. And then I also always include freedom from spiritual pain, because what we're dealing with here, well, obviously everyone needs a relationship with a higher being, and we need to have some confidence at the end of the day we'll have peace and prosperity for everybody. And that's what this project, is this the project in Atlanta, Operation Hope?
No.
John Hope, right? Yeah, well, wherever your partners are, and Ann London, I think she's here.
Yeah. And
Where's she? Come on up here, Ann. Yeah. Yeah, is Mark Saberstein here?
yeah, right
And his
there,
family?
right there in front of you.
Mark, good God Almighty, thank God you exist. And, yeah. Mark, yeah, this is the perfect partnership between the public and private sectors. And I'm honored and humbled to be able to come here with other officials and praise this project. It's a spectacular one. It's one that deserves to be scaled up. And thank goodness the Wilsons had the moxie to move this through. And I just want to give a shout out to my good friend Dan Rodericks. Is he around?
Yep.
Where is he?
Dan,
Yeah, Dan, put your hand up. Dan, yeah. I'm not allowed to give him medallions, but he's given us a little ray of sunshine in a rather bleak newspaper landscape these days. Dan, thank you very much for coaxing this project to maturity. Thank you, and thank you very much again. Yeah, you're involved in something that's unique, and it's happening. And it's going to be a model for, hopefully, all of the 157 municipalities in the state, because we need to break this cycle of people working and working and working, getting paid, but not getting paid enough to ever have any hope of ownership. Ownership is the key. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and that's a perfect segue as I introduce to some and present to others.
10:27 a.m.
Yes, we know that. 10:27 a.m. Trying to keep track, trying to keep us on flow. Our Executive Director of Hard Place Services, our friend, our visionary, Chris Wilson.
as I age, I find I need my glasses.
We hear you.
Okay. First, thank you for coming out on this beautiful day to learn about our project to create home ownership for working families and people experiencing homelessness. This is an exciting day at Hearts Place Services, and one that will introduce you to a new way to deal with homelessness in our city. Each day you read in the newspaper or bring up reports on your computer that reads, Jack Brown has created affordable housing. But who decides the reported affordable housing is truly affordable? Is $250,000 affordable? $150,000? This depends on who you are and speaking to. For many Americans, those with minimal income, these opportunities to own a home are well out of their range for ownership. For working people experiencing homeless or housing instability, of which there are thousands in the city, making a minimum wage, these affordable homes are well beyond their reach. So our plan with Hope Village is to give these people a real opportunity, of which we know no other plans do, to purchase a small but suitable home for $25,000 with financing through a program developed by the Harbor Bank of Maryland Community Development Corporation. This is truly affordable homes. We knew we needed to be smaller, energy efficient, with a porch, typical in Baltimore, including land and furnished with every item in the house necessary for the homeowners to walk in and enjoy without the added cost of what an empty house needs in furnishing and which homeless people might not own. And we found a person in our community who was willing to stand up and take on this responsibility so that each home we constructed would be suitable to live in the moment the person purchased it and walked in the door. In fact, another group came to us and said, these people are going to need food for a few weeks until they get accustomed to the neighborhood. And she came forward and she said, we can do that. And this means that they walk not only into a brand new home, completely furnished, but with milk, eggs, bread, meat, fruit, vegetables. This is truly amazing, and it represents the goodness of the people of this city once they know and once they realize the need that exists out in our community. A friend, or a person I call a friend, I only know him as a newspaper writer by the name of Dan Roderick, decided in one of his articles to write to Mr. Bloomberg, listen, I know this family, they have this kind of weird idea. They want to create homes for the working poor. Would you shoot him $2 million? Well, Mr. Bloomberg didn't come through. But I received a call the following day from Dan Roderick, who said, would you mind if I gave your name to, I knew I was going to do this, brain freeze, to Mark Saperstein. And Mark Saperstein called me up on the phone, and for the first time in my life, the only thing that I could think of saying was, thank you. I hung up the phone. I sat there. I had tears rolling down my face. And I finally found my voice again. And I said to my wife, hey, Mark Saperstein called me up. And he's going to help finance the entire project. And I was overcome. I was absolutely overcome. And this represents what so many people have come forward and done. Our architect, R.M. Sovich, is doing all of his work pro bono.
Oh, wow.
And you can see what it looks like on the three platings showing what these houses will look like. We're going to turn this little block into Hope Village. And we're offering it only for $25,000. And the bank is going to do it through the Community Development Corporation. And they're working on a way to create a document that satisfies all the needs. And what we've done, in addition to providing the houses, is we're making sure that each candidate for a house goes through a course that gives them the opportunity to learn budgeting and financial planning. We feel that this is the first step to them, so that they know what they're getting into, so that they know the basics of budgeting and financial planning, so that they can plan ahead and grow and develop. And then after they move into the house, we're working with the University of Maryland Social Works Department to provide 3 years of social services to each individual so that they can transition out of homelessness, out of fear, out of loss of dignity, into being a respected homeowner. I want to not take up too much more of your time, but I think it's something important that you understand. According to Baltimore City Public Schools statistics, at any one time there are between 3,200 to 3,500 children who are homeless. This means that they do not have a secure place to rest their heads at night. This means that they sometimes go to shelters, but the shelters are not sufficient enough to meet the needs of a woman with children. So our goal was that we would attempt to interest families, but we were advised legally that we had to offer it to all homeless, and which we have done. Our one candidate, who you've already met, is a mother with a child, and her mother will be living with her, I believe. That means 3 people will be in a safe home. Another one is a Vietnam vet. The third is a woman who just came to this country recently after living in a camp for 3 years before she came here. So we're opening this up to everyone. But in addressing the need of the homeless children here in Baltimore, we have to know that these statistics do not include a younger child or an older child. So the statistic is not really accurate. It could double, it could triple. And utilizing the normal way of conceiving a child, we have to have a husband or a man and a wife who is also probably homeless. So we're looking at a far greater number of people who are homeless. And we also must consider that we're talking only working homeless people. We have a few thousand chronically homeless who need medical care. This we cannot provide, but we can address the issue of the working homeless in our society. I anticipate that figure to be about 12,000 people out of a city of 600,000. In the Washington Post the other day, I read about the DC program to get homeless people off the street. DC provides 85% of the rental unit in an area where the rents go for $2,500, and 15% is paid for by the formerly homeless person. In this scenario, DC would pay $2,125 per month, which comes to $25,000 per year, which in 4 years is more than the cost of our Hope Village homes to produce. If the city were simply to adopt this plan, started 100 units at a time, put aside 10% that you're paying into shelters and hotels and rooms, and utilize this as a basis, we could resolve homelessness in this city. But it's just a thought. Why do we make certain people very wealthy while ignoring a substantial portion of our population? Lastly, I want to thank personally Mark Saperstein. He has been absolutely the most unknown person that I've ever met. I spoke to him on the phone for about 10 minutes, got off, cried my eyes out, and went to a meeting, and he sat there and he took it over and he said, this is what I'll do. I'll do it this way and I'll do it that way. And since then, we have moved forward. I have to thank him. I have to thank Ann London. I have to thank Brooke King. I have to thank R.A. Sovich. I have to thank so many people who have come. They've sent me $25. We at Hearts Place Services do not take a salary. Everything that we receive in donations goes to, in the school year, we feed 900 people each weekend. We make sure that that school teacher never sees an angry young child walk into the class. So if you would love to help us, and I know many of you have just been biting to do that, you can contact us at worldwideweb.heartsplaceservices.org. Thank you very much.
So I would like to call to the podium in this order, under the title of Making It a Reality, Mark Saperstein, from CEO of 28 Walker Development. After him, we'll have Furnishing 13 Homes and Other Supports, and will come speak. And following that, Imagining and Designing Hope Village Homes from our architect, Randy.
Thank you everybody for coming today. Obviously, I'm not the only person that reads Dan Roderick's, but I will start off by saying that's how this started. I read the story about Hope Village and Pam and Chris's plan, and talked to my wife Stacy, my son, about let's take this by the neck and let's run with it. So as Chris pointed out, I gave him a call, came down to the office, he laid out his thoughts, which moved around a little bit from construction of containers, shipping containers, to what we thought we could logistically do in a timely fashion, and decided to take on the project for my part of it, which is a small part. It's just basically building and funding it. So the idea came from them, and they should be heralded for that. And now I'm just a cog in the wheel that's just going to make it happen and ensure that these people have homes going forward. I want to reach out. I want to call out to the mayor's office for helping, particularly when something like this hasn't been done before. You come in with a plan, and I said to Chris Fryer, I said, look, I know there's processes, and most people that know me have processes. I don't get along well with them. And asked how we could speed this along, because these people every day don't have a home. So if they let me in there, let me buy the land, let me get going, and just look the other way, and we'll have some fun here and make it good for everybody. Also, my son and wife are participating in the offices. The meetings take place down there. So we also have another actual tie-in, and I'll stop with this. But my wife and I are in a program that maybe this is how this marriage came to be, but my wife and I, she's on the board of a group called Weekend Backpacks, and we feed about 700 children a week in the city through that program, where during the week we make a collection of all the different food items and then put them together in a backpack, deliver them on Fridays, get that backpack back on Mondays, and here we go again. So it just is funny that they do kind of the same thing, but that just shows you how this marriage came to be. So again, a shout out to him and Chris for pulling this together. I'm just a small piece of it, but I hope to do my part and make it a success for everybody.
You're a very big piece of this.
Hi, I want to thank everybody that's sitting here for making this a reality in their own way. I had the pleasure of meeting Pam and Chris back in December of 2017 as the result of an article, here his name is again, that Ms. Roderick wrote about the food program. That we met at their house, and they introduced me to their vision about achieving truly affordable home ownership. Having brought a program to Maryland back in 1993 for the parents of 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old children, that, by the way, still exists today in Baltimore City, I truly know firsthand the impact that supporting families can have on individuals and communities. I was fascinated by Pam and Chris's concept, and I stepped up right away and said, I want to help. I want to raise the funds and help furnish the first 13 of these homes. In my mind, creating housing stability, providing the ability to build credit, giving the opportunity to improve financial literacy and positively change people's lives is really important to me as a financial planner. Today's the culmination of a tremendous amount of work and diligence, but it's only the beginning. It's the beginning of a journey for affordable urban living for the folks who will live in Home Village. But that's what today is all about. It's about living. We can furnish the house with things, but it's the people who turn the houses into homes. And it's the people who turn the homes and houses into community. I'm honored to help launch this community today and to be part of this amazing endeavor. Thank you to everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Randy Sovich. I'm with the architect that was working on this. We're here today for a groundbreaking, but beyond the symbolic, the shovels, and the actual groundbreaking, this project is groundbreaking on multiple levels. So I'm going to repeat a couple of things that you've already heard. Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay. Extremely low wage, working class wages do not rise with increased rentals. I think it's important to repeat that, and with property values. Inflation erodes a family's living conditions, even in a relatively stable economy. The lack of affordable housing and insufficient income are the two leading causes of homelessness. After paying their rent and utilities, statistics show that low-income households have a difficult time to pay for necessities such as food, medicine, transportation, and childcare. Hope Village is a unique proposition. It's intended to support self-sufficiency, home ownership, and mostly, importantly, the building of home equity. It's a groundbreaking collaboration between a nonprofit, Heart Services, a commercial developer, philanthropist, 28 Walker, Mark Saperstein, and a local university, University of Maryland, and the City of Baltimore. It's primarily privately funded, which is unique as well. Hope Village is groundbreaking. From the beginning, the focus was on creating a place of quality and authenticity, not how many units could be fit into the property. I showed some of these elevations to some architects in Chicago a couple weeks ago at the AIA convention nationally, and they said, doesn't look like affordable housing, doesn't have a stigma to it, it's not stripped down, it looks like anyone would want to live there. And I said, that's good, that's what we want. Architecturally, we want this place to project a sense of quality and community. Encouraged by Pam and Chris, we are creating homes that belong in the context of Baltimore. They're not artistic expressions of my personal feeling of what a structure should be. They'll be constructed of readily available, renewable materials. Wood is a renewable resource, don't forget, and conventional construction methods that can be used by anyone. We sought a fresh and natural fit within the existing neighborhood. In each home lot, there's a house with a yard and a wraparound porch. A wraparound porch is intended to extend the interior space to the outside, as you can see. Each home is flexible, so there's a bedroom, a living room. The bedroom can be sectioned off so that it can be used as the living room can be sectioned off, so it's an extra bedroom. There's a washer-dryer unit, so you don't have to go down the street somewhere to a laundromat, which is really important. And if you think about it, it's something that people who own their own homes are used to. And a full kitchen, full bath. My practice, Armsovich Architecture, has been working with nonprofits in the Mid-Atlantic area for 28 years. We are incredibly proud to be part of this project, this groundbreaking project. I'm also a board member of the Neighborhood Design Center. And the Neighborhood Design Center has been providing collaborative community design services to over 3,700 projects since 1968 in Baltimore. It's one of the oldest community design centers in the country. There's a row of people there from Community Design Center. Just stand up. Eleanor Lupin was the program coordinator for the landscape for this, and Sophie McGuire is a landscape architect volunteer who did this beautiful landscape plan using native materials to minimize the maintenance that's required for this landscape. And part of home ownership is caring for your place where you live, where you dwell. So I think what's been done so well by Sophie has been to create a place that people will be happy about, will want to care for, and that will be at ease of caring. I also want to say one last thing. David Solly, who is with Anderson Windows, was in our office one day, and I said, David, he said, what projects do you have? I said, well, we have this project. And I said, what do you think about giving us the windows? And I think it took about this much twist of his arm, and he said, yes. So we're happy that the windows and possibly the doors will be from Anderson Windows. And we're going to see what other products we can get from other distributors and other manufacturers to help make this project happen. And finally, thank you to Mark for doing this, because with my nonprofit clients, raising the money is the most time-consuming, torturous part of the project. And so that was something that was taken for granted, and it's huge. And we're at my office, we're thrilled for Pam and Chris to finally see their vision come to fruition. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, thank you. And I was just standing here. This is a nice, quiet, peaceful space. I don't know, I was here earlier. You hear the birds chirping. It's going to be a beautiful thing. We're going to bring Chris back up for some final acknowledgments, and then we'll have our picture taking with the shovels and all that good stuff. Come on, Chris. I know we can't acknowledge everyone because so many people. It's like a pebble. You throw it in the pond, it just keeps rippling, and the rippling gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So let's bring Chris to some special acknowledgments.
I want to acknowledge Anderson Corporation again for their kindness. Also, Commercial Lighting Sales Inc. They are providing all the lights within the structure. CB Flooring have come forward, and they are going to provide all the laminate flooring throughout these homes. Iconic Builders, wave your hands, people. They're going to do the construction. Kimberly Thorns, there she is. She did our first class on budgeting and financial planning. And Dr. Samuel Little, who had an eye operation. I found out this morning and could not attend. He's from the University of Maryland Social Services, who is going to be working with us to provide that social services. That concludes this meeting. Please, if there's any cookies left, avail yourself, something to drink, and thank you for coming.
But before we end, we want we're going to have actually, this is really with a groundbreaking, it's symbolic, with construction is starting.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. So that's when we're really breaking ground. So we're just going to get your selfie sticks out.
3,